Hi everybody and welcome to this time lapse. Today we've got this milk jug done in pastel, but I'm using a paper that I think I've only used about 3 or 4 times, and that is the Sennelier Le Carte. Now it's a lot grainier and I guess you could say sanded in its texture compared to pastel matte, which I use mostly with my pastels. Um, so I'll talk a little bit about the texture of this paper. The size here is about an A3 size, so 40 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And you do get different colors in this Le Carte. The color I'm using is like kind of like a khaki brown sort of color. Now, it does layer wonderfully with pastel, but I do find that after about 3 layers of pastel, that pastel on the paper is starting to slip and move around. Where still pastel matte, after 3 layers, it's still gripping that pigment. So on the Sennelier Le Carte, I feel like things can get a little bit muddier quicker than on pastel matte. In saying that, even when I've got my 3 or 4 layers of pastel, I can still come over with my pastel pencils and they make not a straight line because of the grain of the paper. The line of the pastel, you have to work over the line several times before it becomes straighter, before you fill in all the little ridges and valleys of the paper. Where pastel matte, I feel like I can get a straighter line on it quicker. But that's just, little, you just have to change your process a little bit. So also this paper, you cannot get it wet. You just cannot. It disintegrates. So that's something to be mindful of. If you're cleaning off your fingers and then you go in with slightly damp fingers, it's going to mess up the paper. So don't do that. I did enjoy working on this paper. It's quite fun to try out different things. What I did like also is I was able to get a smooth look with this paper, which I like. And if you've been watching some of my videos, you'll know that everything is quite smooth. I like to use my fingers, and I definitely believe in rubbing the pastel into the paper. So you can see the milk jug, all the colors here are very subdued. I generated the image using Midjourney, an AI bot, and I just really loved the simplicity. I felt like something more muted and just very simple. A lot of pieces I'm doing at the moment are actually, they're all milk jugs and just simple. Lovely lighting, calming, something just, I don't know, not bright and wonderful, which I do enjoy also. But anyway, it's quite fun to work with all these muted colors. Lots of different grays. We've got some violet grays in there, browny grays, greeny grays, blue grays. And here you can see I'm using my pastel pencils. And like I said, they go over really well. And you can see nice stark color pigment layered on there, even though I've got quite a few layers of pastel. So you can definitely layer with this paper, but like I said, you just got to be a bit more aware that the pastel's going to slip around a little bit more than on pastel matte. But I think I will definitely work on this paper again. It was enjoyable, except like I said, I wouldn't even spray fixative on it. I'd be too petrified. I have to go and have a look at Sennelier's website and see what they say about spraying fixative on this paper. So just touching up around the edges with my tortillon, also using the pastel pencils themselves to touch up and go around just my edges, making sure everything's nice and crisp. I've got no jaggedy edges everywhere, so you can't really tell in the video footage, but where that light is hitting the jug, it was quite jaggedy. So I really had to go over quite a few times, like I said, with my pastel pencils, just to smooth it out. So I'm moving the camera around a little bit just so that we don't get the head in the way, that they can actually see me putting the lines in. That's why the angle of the camera keeps moving. So just finishing touches here. I've got pastel on every inch of the paper, and this is where I go around and make adjustments. Like I said, really watch my edges. I'll put in some more light, darken other areas. Basically just make any adjustments. Like I added a little bit of the blue. I'm using like quite a bluish gray for that table, and I added a little bit of that blue you can see at the bottom of the milk jug, just to bring in some color from the background into the milk jug. In the shadow I've also got what the grays that I used in the actual background itself, just to create that more of that color harmony throughout the piece. But if you've enjoyed this, you can check me out on Patreon, where I've got this uploaded in real time. So I think that's it for now, but I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.